junkie.
Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new... Who am I fooling? Look at my hair. So yeah, I'm starting a new series here, but this is the first time in the story of this channel that a new series is going to kill a previous one. So ladies and gentlemen, it's time to say goodbye to the album review.
Long live the king.
But now he's dead.
As Albert Einstein once said, one will die so a stronger one can be born. He didn't say that, I just made that up. Quick review Basharoo. Albums of the Month. The new monthly series of this channel. Mike the Snare, please don't sue me. Here, I am going to review the new releases I've heard throughout the last month, and I'm going to give a more compact review, and include positive highlights and score. And also I'm going to name one album as the best of the month too, because why not? The main reason why I'm doing this is because there is many albums I wanted to cover in this channel, but with the usual reviewing format, it would get really difficult to cover all the albums I wanted to talk about, because I stayed the entire week working on my videos. So now, I'm gonna make these shorter reviews, so I can cover all the albums I want to talk about here in the channel. And if you liked the old review format, please don't be sad, because it's still going to be used in the Theft series. In fact, the next episode of that series is going to come this month, so stay tuned. Every month the quantity of albums will vary here, but this month we've got 12 albums to check. So in alphabetical order, let's begin! The first album in this video is also the very first album I heard this year. Woo! When I was choosing the first album I was going to listen in 2021, I wanted it to be something special. So I decided to go for Aethernet, because it was the album people were talking the most. What could possibly go wrong? A thing I can praise this album is that every single track in here has its own personality, so it doesn't feel repetitive to listen. But besides that, God, this noisy, glitchy, PC music sound really does not appeal to me. I am not a glitch music virtuoso, so I can't tell if this was something that was intentional. But the production here feels so muffled that it reminded me of those Chinese Disney Princess toy cell phones that you'd buy in a dollar store, and they'd play this song here. I can totally see why people like this album so much. Noisy music is getting more clout every single day, but to me it's kinda hit or miss. 100X? Certain Charlie XX albums? Sure, bring it on. But this album? I want a restraining order. The best song of the album? Kinda hard to say. It's like choosing your favorite nuclear disaster. But I guess if I was forced to listen to the songs from this album, I'd probably say Fallen or Shotgun, with the latter being the best track of the album. Ish. The negative highlights... That sounds just about right to me. Joking, don't get mad, don't get mad. The real negative highlights here are Anything to Gain, Nothing to Lose and Implosion. If you like this style of music, go for it. I'm not really the demographic of this, so my opinions aren't very valid here. Also, the score I give to this album is at 22%, I really didn't like it. With just a little over half an hour, Amidst Radiances is an album that shows a lot of potential, but it wasn't working in a very effective way. The songs in here, while definitely enjoyable, lack focus. It's like the artist is trying to put too many ideas together, and it isn't being able to keep them organized here in a cohesive way. And plus, this record isn't even very memorable. It has a few highlight moments, but from what I've heard, nothing has really stuck out to me as something that I will remember in the long run. But regardless of that, I still think the artist has some interesting ideas, and he just needs to find a way to express them with more efficiency. The record sounds good, excluding a few production aspects that personally didn't please me, but it was worth it to spend 30 minutes on this. And if you feel like listening, go for it. It won't blow your mind or anything, but it will entertain you more than reading the ingredients of a water bottle. Strong Tune is a funny name. Actually, this was a little harsh. This album will provide you with some interesting entertainment for 30 minutes, especially during the positive highlights. Aphelion, the best track, and Ataraxia. Yeah, and a little less in the negative highlight, Azimuth. And the score of this album to me? 60%. It's pretty enjoyable. After I heard Aethernet and ended up with such a damned headache, I decided to go for a more mellow listen so I could recompose myself. And I chose this record to do the job. I wasn't expecting much of it, considering when I first tried to listen to Purple Moonlight Pages, I was so underwhelmed I didn't even finish it. However, with this new album, I might actually give a second chance to PNP, considering it was so satisfying to listen. The lyrics in itself didn't do much to me, but the beats here were the creme de la creme. I enjoyed all of it. Jazzy instrumentation is right up my alley, but I only wish they had more staying power. They are very enjoyable, but excluding a few exceptions, they don't really have much to be remembered. And also, the ending of this record was a massive letdown. I hate when albums end abruptly, and this one did exactly that. Actually, it did worse. It ended mid-beat. Listen to this! Are you freaking kidding me? R.A.P. Ferreira, I wish I was your parents right now so I could ground you for that. I have no doubt I will listen to this album again in the future, because I really liked it. But I can't deny I wish this album could be more right. The positive highlights here are Yamship's Flaxseed, Redguard Snipers, which is also the best track, Bobby's Digital Little Wings, High Rise in Newark, and Rejoice. For the negative highlights, I wasn't going to put any, but god damn it, that mid-beat ending. That made me lose 1 HP. So it's going to be the closing track, Abominist Manifesto, even though I like it. Jesus. Oh, and before I forget, the score here is 78% superb. Can we take a moment to appreciate this album cover? It's a good boy smiling, how could you say no? That album cover alone deserves 100% superb. However, the content of the album... you know where this is going, right? I kinda like this record, but I can't deny it doesn't bring nothing new to the table. If you heard any normal pop punk record, this isn't any different. To be fair, we've got some great tunes in here. And the only moments on the album that gets close to being bad is during some questionable lines, or lyrics that feel generic. But even with that, this is not an album worthy of being revisited as a whole, since everything in here was already done before by other artists in even better ways. But at least, we've got some good songs to appreciate separately. The most notable examples here are the positive highlights, Blunt Force Concussion, Ride or Die, Hang Your Moon, Damage Control, the best track, and Possession. And for the negative highlights, Doom Boy and One More on the Bill. And the superb scale, 66%. I'm sorry, Dogo, but at least your picture is 100% superb to me. You're a good boy. Wait, I just noticed the cloud in the back looks like a fart. I don't know how to feel about it. After 9 years of wait, Glass Kites finally released their so-awaited second studio album. And it was worth the wait. From the first second to the very last one, this record does not disappoint. And it's filled with amazing progressive goodness. Not a single moment sounds bad in here. That doesn't mean it's a perfect album, because the songs, despite being good, they don't really have the potence of some great prog records from the past. And I also don't really feel the same kind of excitement when I listen to this, in comparison to like 2112 for example, that I go nuts. By far the strongest point in the album is the instrumentals. They are really satisfying to listen, and it really makes the experience worth it. I said I don't feel the same excitement of the classic prog albums, but that doesn't mean I don't feel any excitement at all, because I love this album. So yeah, if you like prog rock, I can't recommend this album enough. It's like a full course meal to the ears. Especially the positive highlights. Intro Soviet, Leviathan, and Discworld Projector. The latter one being also the best track of the album. And for the negative highlights, none really. So yeah, pretty good. 87% superb. Now here's the thing. I enjoyed this record. It kinda sounds like the soundtrack for a movie about Vikings or something. But I really feel like it's missing something here. The worst songs in here aren't songs that made me think, haha, this sounds like a demo, it's cringy or whatever. It's more like, this is plain boring. And of the best songs of the album, few songs in here actually stand out. Mostly because we have many songs in here that sound the same. There is just some good ones that I might return in the future, but I doubt I would return to these with frequency. To me, it's a pretty enjoyable album that I liked and can see myself returning back to it in the future. I'm just not totally hooked by it. And that's not by lack of affinity, because I do love some dark folk music. And now for the positive highlights, I swear to God I'm trying my best to not mess up those names, but the title track, Kvitravn, Kvithjort, Viseviden, and Vivarljot, with Viseviden being the best track. And the negative highlights being Skuge and my favorite song title of this record, Ni A Sports. Challenge everything. Phew. I am really going insane. Anyway, this album is 71% superb. The best way to describe this album is normal. From the first to the last note, Magic 8 Ball is an album that seems like it's trying its best to be as middle of the road as possible, which to be honest is fine to me. I personally enjoyed this record. It reminds me of Khalid, but with a more contained production. The compositions are nice, at certain moments we have some interesting hooks or lines, but in the bigger picture, this release feels edgeless as a knife. I mean this part of the knife. I don't see any sort of dare or risks being taken here. Which is okay, we don't necessarily have to try to be cutting edge all the time when you're releasing music. But that also might mean your album is easy to be forgotten. Especially when the lyrics are also nothing to brag about. I might return to some songs from this album in the future, because it's indeed a nice, chill listen, but I think the chances of me actually listening to this LP again are quite low. The positive highlights in here are Sunny and 62, Never Let Me Go, and Almost Home, with Never Let Me Go being the best track. And the negative highlights are Brand New and Where You Going Tonight, the two most forgettable songs of this already pretty forgettable records. At least I'll give it a 63%, so it's not all that bad. In this moment, it was supposed to have a roulette beside me. But you know, the show is low budget, so I don't really have a roulette. I'm going to have to use an online one. Because now it's time to play. Is this new Weezer album good or bad? Yeah, this album is not bad. It's interesting that they opted to go for a more orchestral sound than their previous releases. And I never thought something like Rivers Cuomo's singing voice in these instrumentations work. Mainly because that's way too specific to me to think about it beforehand. The songs in itself have a pretty similar dynamic to each other, but we do have certain moments where they go for a more different direction, such as a surprisingly funky and urgent Screams, and Playing My Piano, that reminds me of Coldplay back when they were interesting. And they help balancing the album out very effectively. But not all of it is a bed of roses. Some sections feel a little tiring, and the closing track in my opinion is the weakest point of the album. And considering how much I value the last song of a record, this is a sacrilege to me. And also the lyrics are awkward. They exhale such hey there fellow kids vibes. And this kinda makes me want to die a little, but I think it's okay. But at least, I gotta congratulate the band for trying their hand into something new that actually works. I might not be entirely familiar to Weezer's discography, I only heard a couple of their albums, but I know their discography is as volatile as... wait a minute. Well, I gotta agree with that. And hopefully, Van Weezer will, just like this one, join the Teen Good Weezer albums. And we can stray away from the... forbidden albums. By the way, the best songs in here are all my favorite songs, fitting, Alugubi, I think that's how you say it, Grapes of Wrath, Mirror Image, Screams, and Dead Roses. The first one being the best track. And the final track, La Brie Tarpets, nailed it, I think, is a negative highlight as you might have imagined. But the score is still pretty high, 84% to this one. To me, a good ambient album must be one that I can dive deep into. Permanest feels like diving into a plate. The only aspect I can praise in this record is that it has a style of its own. And it has some memorable points, which makes me say you should give this album a shot. You may like it, but for me... yeah, I'll just leave. Yeah, this album wasn't a moving ambient record like the real good ones are. I spent 80% of my time listening to this record in the most neutral phase possible, and in the remaining 20% I was frowning because of the questionable nature of this LP. Some songs in here sounds like there was close to no effort put into them. They don't have that simple but functional nature that I think it was intending to go. Instead it's more like simple and... yeah, just simple. So they straight up feel very shallow to me. It didn't immerse me whatsoever, and at points it was even kind of annoying. Again, I don't think you should totally underestimate this record, because you may find something to like about it. But that was not really my case, and I feel like I would have more fun staring to a pen drive than listening to this. This is an SD card adapter. The positive highlight is singular. It's After All. Not because I liked it, but because it's the only song in the record that I reacted positively to. The negative highlights here are On, Focus, Blankets, Lapse and Landing, making the score of this record be a 24% superb. In 2020, I started to get into the realms of jazz fusion, which was uncharted territory to me prior to that. And in 2021, one of my objectives is to get fully into that. And if things keep going this direction, holy cow, I think I'll marry this genre. I know not every jazz fusion album is fantastic, but the ones I heard certainly are, including Shapes. Actually, especially Shapes. The album dives into many musical textures, but not in a messy way. It's all very coherent and comfortable to listen. It never feels repetitive. It goes for only 28 minutes, but those are songs that you will spend diving into one of the most surprising releases of January. That is, to me, the best album of the month. The only negative aspect here to me is that none of the songs made me go insane over how good they are. Don't get me wrong, all 9 of the tracks of this album are totally approved, but there's no moment in here that makes me go, "Somebody call the ambulance, I'm having a true overdose." So it's very unlikely that I will listen to these songs individually. But the album? Damn, I'm gonna do it right now! The positive highlights? Well, We're From Nowhere, Leaves, Odyssey, Outside, Perceptron, Villains and Stay Free. Those are my favorite ones. The best track is honestly hard to tell, but I think it's Leaves. For the negative highlights, if I had to pick one, probably Gabor, just because it's too short, but I still like it. And my score to this record? Well, 95% superb. I loved it. From the very first moment, the album got me hooked with a great bassline, the lead singer's manic voice that reminded me of a less rough Tom Waits, and a production style that reminds me of early Trent Reznor. As the album went by, it kept going the same direction, just with the production getting less minimalistic and more filled, which is not a bad thing. It's pretty good because it adds a little more variety to the sound of this album without sounding disconnected. And even though this is a great album and definitely return, I do see some flaws, like the excessive amount of interludes that don't really add much to the album besides length. Still, it's a pretty amazing album. The positive highlights in here are the opener Ain't Nice, also the best track, Creatures, 6 Shooter, I Feel Alive and Girls and Boys. The negative highlight is Secret Canine Agent, and the score I give it is an 86%. This album is funny, because at the same time it sounds exactly like the album cover, it also sounds nothing like the album cover. I gotta say, prior to this album I only knew that Handsome Devil by name, and now that I know them more properly, I need to check what else they have to offer. That was surprisingly great. It has a whimsical sense of humor that works through some twisted ways. The main proof of that is that it has a song called Date Review, and it works. The vocals are very similar to the ones of Beck, so much so that I even thought it was actually him singing in a more ludicrous way. And the sound of the record is like a really weird blend between Beck himself in the Midnight Vultures or maybe Mellow Gold era, early Arctic Monkeys, Frank Zappa and pretty much a bit of everything else. Evil People is even a more synthwave-ish song here, that shows how wild but surprisingly diverse the sound of this record is. So even though not many people seem to like it, I honestly quite flabbergasted by it. In a good way, of course. I really enjoyed it. The positive highlights to me are Dinosaur, the best track, Shut Up You're Stupid, Everyone's Trying to Kill Me, Evil People, and La de Freaking Da. The song negative highlight is Guys Are Gross. And the score of the album, I may say 88% superb. Good job, Handsome Devil. Does that mean I'm a Satan worshipper now? Well, if that's the case...
DLC.